When the hospital elevator doors opened, I saw my husband hand in hand with a young woman who was 7 months pregnant. I quietly stepped inside. His eyes met mine for exactly 1 second, but that second was enough to make his face turn pale. The pregnant girl innocently asked, "Who is she?" My husband didn't answer. He stayed silent, as if even breathing too hard would make his gentle, obedient wife of 8 years explode, and possibly burn everything inside this elevator. My name is Stephanie, 35 years old, a piano teacher in Boston. That afternoon, I was at Massachusetts General Hospital, not for a scheduled appointment or any special reason. I came because my mother-in-law had just been admitted to the internal medicine department due to a sudden drop in blood pressure. My father-in-law had tried calling my husband, Samuel, first. He called 3 times in a row, but got no answer. So he turned to call me instead, his voice full of panic. "Steph, can you go to the hospital first? I don't know where Samuel is." And so I left my piano class early, rushed to the hospital with the mindset of a daughter-in-law who always tried her best to take care of her husband's family. Even though in the past few months, Samuel had become increasingly distant in a way I couldn't explain. I headed to the elevator on the 7th floor to bring my mother-in-law a light meal and sign some additional admission papers, completely unaware that just seconds later, my world would collapse without warning. When the elevator doors opened, Samuel was inside, with a young pregnant woman. Her belly clearly showed she was 6 or 7 months along. Her hand was resting on the small of his back, in a way so intimate it left me frozen. He was holding a thick stack of documents, the logo of a gynecology clinic printed on the front page, and the way the two of them stood, natural, close, familiar, made me feel like I had just stumbled into an entirely different life belonging to my own husband. Samuel met my gaze for only 1 second, but that was enough for his face to turn pale. His lips trembled into silence, and his hand gripped the edge of the elevator as if he had just seen the most terrifying thing in his life. The pregnant girl, whom I would later learn was named Layla, innocently asked, "Who's that?" And that question pierced through me more deeply than any confession could. I stepped into the elevator anyway, standing just a few feet from them, my face calm as if I had no idea what was happening. Layla chatted freely about her ultrasound earlier that morning, about how the baby's kicking harder, while Samuel shook so badly he pressed the wrong floor button twice. The air in that small elevator was so heavy, I could hear the ragged breaths of my husband, the man who had ignored his own father's calls to accompany another woman to a gynecology clinic. When the doors opened on the 3rd floor, I simply stepped out. No confrontation, no screaming, no tears. I only looked back at him once, a glance that told him I had realized far more than he imagined. And in that very moment, as the elevator doors closed on Samuel's face, I knew that my visit to see my mother-in-law had only been fate's pretext. What I had truly witnessed wasn't her illness, but the rot spreading through my own marriage. I could still feel that icy chill when I walked into the house that night, where the familiar warm yellow light no longer offered any sense of safety. Samuel came in about 10 minutes after me, breathless like someone escaping an explosion. Before I could even hang up my coat, he rushed in with explanations, speaking so fast he almost choked on his own words. "You misunderstood. She's a client. I was just helping her with insurance paperwork." I turned to look at him, unnervingly calm, even to myself, and it was that very calmness that led him to believe I hadn't yet pieced together what I had seen in the elevator. Seeing that I didn't react harshly, he exhaled and began shifting blame in his usual way. "You're always too sensitive. And, why didn't you tell me earlier that Mom was in the hospital? I should have been the one to go see her." I stayed silent as Samuel constructed a new narrative, cast himself in the role of the responsible son, right after walking out of a gynecology clinic with a woman 6 or 7 months pregnant, when he hurriedly said he had to go see Mom right now to make up for it. I nodded and handed him the keys, letting him leave the house just minutes later. As soon as the door closed, I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and logged into iCloud, something he always assumed I paid no attention to. I restored all deleted messages from the past 30 days, my heartbeat sinking with every passing second as I saw multiple specialist appointment entries appearing repeatedly on the screen, each one matching Layla's second trimester ultrasound schedule. I then opened our bank statements, and the name Ariana Obstetrics Group showed up. Not once, but 4 times in the last 2 months. That was the exact clinic I had seen on the folder Samuel was holding in the elevator. My fingers turned slightly cold as I created a new folder on my desktop, named Case Study of a Falling Husband, Phase 1. I dragged in every file, every screenshot, every receipt. When Samuel came back, his face showed relief, thinking the argument had been nipped in the bud. I asked only one simple question. "Is your mom okay?" He nodded, eyes hopeful, convinced everything had blown over. But I said nothing more, just smiled faintly and returned to my desk, letting him completely misread my silence. He had no idea that in that very moment, when he exhaled, thinking he had survived a crisis, I had begun marking down the timeline, every hour, every day, every transaction, every trace he left behind. And he couldn't have imagined that my calm was not forgiveness, but the stillness before a storm he would never see coming. I knew that for the storm to be strong enough, I needed something even more important than emotion: the truth. The next morning, when Samuel left the house with an oddly relieved face, I immediately called Megan, my close friend, who worked in the billing department at Massachusetts General. Megan was the kind of woman who, the moment she heard me say, "Megan, I need your help, something big," would shut her office door without asking another question. I briefly told her about the elevator scene from the day before, and just 30 seconds later, Megan's voice dropped low. "Steph, I just pulled up the records, and Samuel is listed as the secondary insurance holder for a pregnant female patient. Are you sure you want to hear all of this?" I leaned back in my chair, my hands slightly trembling, though my voice was calm to the point of being frightening. "Tell me." Megan lowered her voice even further. "Only domestic partners can be added to an insurance plan under this category, and the activation date was 3 months ago, on your wedding anniversary." I closed my eyes, feeling like a thin string was slowly tightening around my throat. She continued reading the information on her screen. Her file explicitly states, "Partner accompanied every visit," which means every ultrasound, every blood test, every fetal heart check, Samuel was there. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply opened my laptop and began downloading every hospital bill, every insurance page, every timestamp. I plugged in a USB drive and saved everything into the Phase 1 folder, locking it with a 16-character password. When I was on the 7th invoice, my phone buzzed. Samuel had texted me, exactly in the tone he always used before lying. "I have to work late tonight. Unexpected meeting." I stared at the message, then opened Layla's medical appointment schedule that Megan had sent me before logging out of the system. 2 lines overlapped like a cruel joke. 3rd trimester ultrasound, Friday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. I scrolled down another page. Layla's last 8 prenatal appointments all fell on the exact evenings Samuel claimed he had to be on business trips, or working late, or meeting a VIP client. 8 times, not a minute off. Not a single believable explanation. The scattered pieces from the last 2 months, deleted messages, strange invoices, the unfamiliar perfume on his shirts, began snapping into place. I added one final line to the timeline. Work trip equals prenatal appointment. And when that line appeared on my screen, I knew I had crossed into a new phase of my investigation. Not an intuition anymore, but the truth staring straight into my face under the cold white lights of the hospital where my mother-in-law still lay. When that timeline became clearer than any lie Samuel had ever told, I knew it was time to open another door in my own investigation. A door to truths that invoices or vague appointments could no longer hide. That afternoon, as Samuel stepped out with the excuse of going to the office to prepare for next week's meeting, I called the office of Greg Simmons, a well-known private investigator in Boston who specialized in infidelity cases that clients couldn't prove by sight alone. I sent him 3 pieces of information: Samuel's name, his phone number, and the last sentence he said before leaving the house. Greg simply replied, "1 week, I'll get you what you need." But Greg didn't need a week. 3 days later, I received his first email, a photo of Samuel entering an apartment in Inman Square at 10:45 p.m., the exact night 3 months ago when he told me he had to meet an important client because that was the only time the guy was free. In the photo, Layla opened the door for Samuel, holding a half-finished fashion design board. The hallway light fell across their faces, not the light of client and agent, but of 2 people who had known each other long enough to be far beyond what words could hide. Greg didn't send 1 photo, he sent 3. In the second, taken 2 Saturdays ago, the same day Samuel said he was playing golf with colleagues, Samuel was carrying a Graco Snugride infant car seat, the type mothers often prepare a few weeks before giving birth. I stared at that seat, feeling as though my entire body had plunged into freezing water. I remembered clearly that afternoon. I had shaken out my coat on the balcony while watching him walk out of the house in a polo shirt, believing he was genuinely going to play golf. Instead, he was preparing for a child that wasn't mine. The third photo was taken a week ago. Samuel standing at the apartment door in Inman Square, pressing the doorbell 3 times, looking impatient, while Layla opened it slightly from inside, her hair in a loose bun, one hand on her belly, her face showing the exhaustion of late pregnancy. Greg also sent a short audio clip, Layla's voice speaking to someone on the phone. "If Jordan finds out, everything will blow up." Jordan. That name appeared like a new puzzle piece I never anticipated. Greg added, "Layla hasn't officially divorced her former fiancé. Seems like Samuel doesn't know that." I opened my laptop and created a new folder, Hidden Residence Layer, Phase 2. Each photo, each audio file, each timestamp, I dragged them in as if pulling knives out of my chest just to see them clearly under the light. That evening, Samuel texted, "I'll be in meetings late, don't wait up." I looked at Greg's photos, then opened Google Maps. Inman Square was nearly 40 minutes from Samuel's office. I didn't reply. There was no need. I let him continue believing I was still in the confused, not fully understanding phase, so he would keep repeating the same lies, on time, in the same familiar patterns. But inside me, the pieces of betrayal had already assembled into the complete silhouette of a man I no longer recognized, and of a marriage I knew would never return to what it once was. Once I knew the marriage had no way back, I began doing what American women learn to do after betrayal: checking finances. In cases of infidelity, emotions are only the surface. Money is where the raw truth lives. That night, while Samuel showered and went to bed early, like a man overburdened with work, I opened my laptop and logged into our joint bank account. It took less than 2 minutes to realize something was wrong beyond belief. $8,450 withdrawn every month under Family Medical Miscellaneous, starting 3 months ago, the exact time Layla entered her second trimester. Not once, not twice, but with the consistency of a long-term loan payment. I scrolled down to view the detailed transactions. Maternal Fit Boston, a high-end prenatal care service. Prenatal Yoga Cambridge, offering specialized classes for women over 28 weeks, and 2 additional charges from a boutique baby gear store in Brookline. Each transaction was a slap to my face. Samuel wasn't just cheating, he was financially nurturing another life with our money. I moved on to check his insurance account, something he usually pretended I had no business touching. I had to dig up the old password he'd used 2 years ago, and once I logged in, I saw his insurance file had recently been modified. I opened the PDF and felt my entire body turn cold. Under beneficiary, where my name, Stephanie Miller Carter, should have been, it had been replaced with Layla Vance. Cold, clean, clear, no notice, no discussion. Only the silent actions of a man preparing a future with another woman. And that action officially constituted fraud under Massachusetts insurance law. I opened a new folder, Financial Fraud Layer, Phase 3. I dragged in the statements, the insurance documents, and the entire beneficiary edit history. To secure everything, I saved a second copy onto a USB, one I hid deep inside the bottom drawer of my piano bench, a place Samuel had never touched. Around 10 p.m., Samuel walked out of the bedroom, leaned on the doorframe, and spoke in a gentle voice that would convince any outsider he was the image of a devoted husband. "How about we take a trip to Vermont this weekend? Relax, talk things through. I want to fix things." That sentence, if he had said it a year ago, might have made me cry with love. But now, it sounded like someone trying to repair a rotting house by putting up a new curtain. I smiled, the exact smile he needed to believe I had softened. Relief washed over him. He stepped forward to hug me, saying he wanted a fresh start. He didn't realize that in his eyes I saw no remorse, only the panic of a man sensing a storm was coming, but not knowing from which direction. As for me, I returned to my laptop after he went to sleep, opened the forensic accounting spreadsheet I had been building with the precision of an actual financial analyst, and logged every transaction, every date. Samuel was happy because he thought I had forgiven him, and I was content because I knew I was close to the point where he would have no way left to escape. And I knew that to block every possible exit for him, I needed a kind of evidence Samuel couldn't deny. Proof that came from society itself, from people completely unrelated to us. The small details that cheating men always overlook, but which, when pieced together, form the sharpest blade. The next morning, while taking out the trash, I saw Mrs. Marlene, our neighbor who had lived across from us for 15 years, watering her plants in the front yard. She glanced at me and lowered her voice. "Steph, there were a few times when you were out. Samuel came home very late, wearing a strange perfume. Not your kind." Her voice was soft, but each word landed in my ears like a stone. Then she added that once, she saw him carrying a large Target bag, inside of which she noticed a box of prenatal vitamins, stretch mark cream, and a cream-colored baby blanket. Things that had never existed in my house, the home of a woman who wasn't pregnant. I thanked her and walked back inside, chilled by how frighteningly